This is The Close-Up. Conversations about creativity. From our studios in Los Angeles, here is Jim Chabin.
Ted Schilowitz is with us. He serves as the Chief Creative Officer for Barco, the world's leader in entertainment technology. He is also the Futurist for 20th Century Fox Films and was the first employee and a part of the founding group of the Red Camera Company. Welcome back, Ted.
Thanks, Jim. It's always a pleasure to chat with you.
I can't believe it, but it's been a year since you and I first sat down and we started talking about Barco Escape. And I want to talk about VR with you and some other things, but let's start with Barco Escape. Here's what Heather Wilson, a critic, said about Star Trek. Star Trek Beyond perfectly celebrates 50 years of the franchise, while taking these stories into a bold new future where anything is possible for Captain Kirk and the fearless crew of the USS Enterprise. Across the board, getting really, really good reviews. It's going to be shown in Escape and select theaters. Tell us about Star Trek and tell us, let's start with Barco Escape. Tell us about where that is right now.
Yeah. First of all, I would totally agree with that assessment. It is a rollicking good time at the movies. We just did a final QC screening late last night, early this morning to make sure everything was all ready for its rollout in the theaters all around the world for Barco Escape. And it is a really good time at the movies. It does indeed capture the spirit of what we all grew up on in the Gene Roddenberry Star Trek. It's fun, it's intense, hardcore action, and it just has that moment of joy that the really good Star Trek franchise, you know, when they find the right spirit, and this one finds the right spirit, it's really fun to watch.
We're going to play some video of the Barco Escape trailer. Why don't you just talk to us over that while we're playing that, a little bit about explaining what Barco Escape is.
Sure.
It's easy to get lost in the vastness of space. There's only your ship, yourself, your crew.
Barco Escape is a 3-screen cinema experience. It has asked the question from the very beginning, a few years back when we started experimenting, to the point now where it's a format that is one of the choices you would go see a movie in, where can we watch a movie that's not just in front of us, but that surrounds our visual experience, that lives all around us. It's more like going to a theme park style experience, but in your local multiplex. And with every movie project that we've taken on over the years, the first 2 with 20th Century Fox, with the first 2 Maze Runner movies, and now with Star Trek Beyond, the Paramount release, we continue to sort of up the ante and up the sophistication and up the production quality and production value. And with the Star Trek team, with J.J. Abrams and Ben Rosenblatt and their creative teams, the VFX team at DNEG and Prime Focus, they really focused on building something that was completely seamless from the center screen experience, and as it widens out into these huge action scenes and epic battle scenes. And as you're watching the trailer, you'll get little moments of it, but when you go to see the movie in the theater, there's over 20 minutes of this content where the experience blows out, and suddenly you're not just at the movie, you're inside this experience.
Here's what producer J.J. Abrams said about Star Trek. Justin Lin's Star Trek Beyond is an epic adventure, truly larger than life. It's especially fitting that we are partnering with Barco to provide an ultra-wide experience using Barco Escape. The Escape system expands the width of viewing plane, giving filmmakers an innovative new tool with which to tell stories and audiences an enhanced way to experience cinema. Not bad. J.J. Abrams' team, Justin Lin, saw this as a new way to tell the story of Star Trek. How does that process work? Where do they start talking to you about what they're going to do with Barco?
Sure. Well, if you think about the essence of Star Trek as an adventure, right? And visually, how do you show that adventure to a modern audience? We thought this was kind of that perfect franchise to say movies and television are this, and cinema entertainment in the future can be this. So when you get Justin Lin and J.J. Abrams to start thinking about the future, because they've always been futuristic, and JJ's been very open about his desire to always push the envelope in lots of different ways, right? So the process started probably discussions close to a year ago, and then the real process probably 8 months ago, and then the hardcore work 6 months ago, and then nonstop up until literally this past week.
Is this the future of cinemas? Is this where we're going?
I think this is absolutely one part of the vision of the future of cinema, right? And as you think about from an audience perspective and from a technology perspective and how they blend together, new technology affords new opportunities. New creative groups will take on the mantle of trying those new opportunities and start to take swings at the bat, right? And start to try and actually see what's possible when you can take the latest possible technology, in this case, the Barco projectors, which has the largest footprint in the world of digital projectors, so we're in a really good space to actually try something and actually take some risks and deploy it. And they have really strong exhibitor partners all over the world that are willing to work with them in the early days of something new and say, let's see where this goes and let's start to experiment. And then you have a watershed moment, which is now Star Trek Beyond, which I would say is our real watershed moment, where you have a huge tentpole movie that is a fantastic movie in and of itself and has a huge footprint, and in these very special theaters, a little over 30 now, and then we're adding more week over week to keep growing the footprint, but all over the world, all over the US, in Canada, in Asia, parts of China, Mexico, Dubai, the Middle East, all over the place, that are really starting to say, this is a new way to go see a movie, and we watch audiences flock to it.
20 minutes of Star Trek?
A little over 20 minutes, yeah.
And what kind of scenes lend themselves well to using all the screens?
This is one of those interesting things where all you have to do is imagine and think about every Star Trek movie that you've seen and the TV shows that you've seen, and all the epic battle sequences and all of those huge action sequences, and you imagine what it would be like to kind of live more inside that, right? And those are the scenes that they focused on. So in this movie, as you can see in the trailer, there's these swarm aliens that are sort of the antagonist of the story and lend itself to the good versus evil battle stuff. And when that stuff starts to surround your visuals, and of course the Enterprise itself, when it's moving across the plane of your visual, and you start to see it, coming in from one side and crossing over into the center and then moving into the other side, it's just a remarkable experience. It's nothing like what a square or a rectangle movie is at that point. It just fills that visual experience.
Different. And it's completely different when you walk out of the theater, as I have. You have that sense this is the way movies ought to be seen. It's exciting. It's a magic. You're going to the theater. It's a magical box, and you're climbing into it. And
well, it's a real event, right? It's when people are looking to go to movies today, because we have lots of entertainment choices in home entertainment and mobile entertainment. But the beauty of the cinema is it's a place to go to gather and feel the energy of an audience and feel the energy of the filmmaker at the pinnacle of what his visual goals and desires were. And then everything is sort of a downstream effect from that, right? And because of the convenience of home options, that is starting to sort of take over a lot of the conversation. And part of our goal as purveyors of the cinema experience is to make sure that people come to the cinema for something really special, something that they can fully enjoy while they're in it, and then talk to their friends and family about as they leave the theater or in the coming days, and they say, we saw this, it was really, really great, and you have to go see it in this format.
if I'm going to start a movie project and I want to do it in Barco Escape, what do I have to do differently in the process of making that film?
So a lot of it has to do with pre-planning. When you start to talk about any sort of technical effort in the cinema, the more time and the more smarts you put into knowing what you want to achieve and how you want to achieve it, and then set out to achieve those goals, you will have a better end result, right? So in the case of Star Trek, it's all the big battle scenes, which are primarily CG anyway, all VFX created. And then the teams, it's the same VFX team that work on the normal center screen movie that worked on the side screen material. So it's completely seamless, and it just looks like suddenly the movie just opens your eyes, and like, there it is. When it comes to the actual art of production in Barco Escape, we have done quite a number of things, and now we have a few movies that are actually shot end-to-end in the Escape format using ultra widescreen, ultra high resolution cameras, of which is part of my background is the Red camera, so it's a very popular camera because now they're up to 8K resolution on the sensors, and 6K adequately fills that much canvas. So we did an independent festival movie last year for a film festival called CineQuest, end-to-end. We have our first Hollywood movie with the director of Act of Valor and Need for Speed, Scott Waugh, a movie called Six Below, which is remarkable. Todd's the CEO of Barco Escape, just screened it in an early screening as they're prepping now for their Escape version of it. And it's all shot natively that way in the format, so it'll really take advantage of it. We have a movie that's shooting in South Africa now that certain big battle and action sequences will be shot in the Escape format called 24 Hours to Live. And there's another movie called Recall that is just starting to shoot as well in Canada that is being shot natively in the Escape format. It's a sci-fi, scary sci-fi action adventure movie.
If we think of these movies, let's say on average 100 minutes, 20 of which are Barco Escape, does your imagination take you to a place where the entire movie is in Barco? So we're just trying some things at this particular point.
Well, and that imagination is real. So the Scott Waugh movie, Six Below, the entire thing from end to end is shot and will be delivered.
So all three screens
in Barco
will
Escape.
be, yeah.
Right. These other two movies, they're pushing the threshold as they shoot, and they're going to determine how much feels right for the Escape format. But it will be, I anticipate it will be considerably more than 20 minutes of those movies because they're planning for that and shooting for that now.
When you're in the process of having this discussion and someone says, well, how much extra work is this for my crew? How much extra cost do I need to budget for it? How do you answer those questions when you get
And just like any good producer knows, right? Whether you're doing a TV show, a movie, or an Escape movie, the more cycles you put into what are we actually getting ourselves into here, and how much can we affect the process and know what our budget additions might be, which are actually relatively manageable when you're talking about digital movie cameras like Red cameras. We add second and third cameras without much budget increase to make sure that we can capture the ultra wide landscapes and the panoramic moments. So it ends up not really being, certainly doesn't become a limiting factor or we can't do this in Escape factor. We've done, small indie movies, which we talked about for the festival. We've done mid-budget movies and large budget movies. And you just end up, it's a sort of a small percentage of the budget. It varies from film to film, just like there's no one budget for a movie, there's no one budget for an Escape movie. But so far we haven't seen it become an unmanageable process as long as you know what you're getting into.
Right. The Barco estimate is that there'll be 100 of these on or before the 1st of January this year. 3,000 in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
That kind of feels like any Cineplex I go into is going to probably have at least one Barco Escape theater. It's pretty exciting. How many movies are we looking at per year over the next few years?
I'm trying to remember the exact count. We kind of move up and we ramp up accordingly. I think it's 4 for next year and then 8 for the year after, and then
12,
and then
and
more than 8, 12 plus, one a month kind of thing once you get into the 2018 and beyond range. And those are, of course, our targets, but they're based in reality. They're based in looking at the theater footprints, talking to the exhibitors, knowing what the demand and desire is, and looking at as the movies start to show what is possible in this format and audiences want to go to it. The other thing is that it's a relatively economical format to install in movie theaters, which you and I were chatting a little bit about. It's not millions of dollars to put one of these in. It's not, while it is a very exotic experience, it's not an exotic price.
Yeah, I don't have to rebuild a theater.
Right.
Or build a new theater to do it. I can take my existing structure and put it in.
Yeah.
What drew you to Barco? What is it about what they do that excites you?
So it's the blending of the technology and the people behind the technology and their ethical structure and how they like to work and how they like to deliver product into the market and how they build relationships. I've always felt in the days when I was on the camera side, we'd use every new projector technology that came out. And as 4K projectors came on the scene to start to support these new cameras, we would have everything. And the technology in some cases, is based on similar technology, DLP technology, but the actual end product couldn't be more different from place to place in terms of its reliability, the way it handles the overall picture quality, and the support behind it, and sort of the human side of it. So out of all the different projector companies, Barco was really my most sort of, it was in a special place. And I built really strong relationships with all of those people. And then when I decided to retire from Red, and my friends at Fox asked me to join in this crazy role being their futurist, and Barco said, at that point we came up with a crazy name called Cinema Evangelist, and now it's Chief Creative Officer, which is all sort of the same thing. It's just kind of doing this stuff.
Yeah, it's an open portfolio for you to be involved in a lot of new things.
Yeah, exactly.
And for our viewers, if you're interested in finding an escape theater, go to Ready to Escape,
Right.
and you can see that
So
on the screen.
it's Ready, the number 2, and Escape. So it's not 2, it's Ready 2, number 2, Escape. And there's a listing, there's some promotions, you can see the trailer there. And there's some contests that we're running around some events and so forth and so on that you can find out information there, which is great. And there's a listing of all the theaters that are playing, so you can click onto those. It'll take you to the theater website, and then you can see the different formats. There'll be digital, there'll be the large screen format, and then there'll be the Barco Escape format. So you can click on
I
that
would
and get
imagine we
tickets.
could both say, if you go out and see Star Trek in this format, you're going to have a blast, right?
We certainly had a blast every
Yeah.
time we previewed it and looked at it. And just to give some massive credit to the creative teams, this is no small undertaking. When you see what this looks like, there are many wow moments where you sit and you just go, wow, that's unbelievable. Like the visual experience is far beyond, and we'll use the Star Trek Beyond, far beyond what you can get with a single screen. And the dedication of those teams, the VFX teams and the production teams at Bad Robot, to push this through and continue that inertia, because none of this stuff is easy, right? I mean, it takes real creative effort to make something that good, and it's that good when you see it.
The Close-Up is produced by the Advanced Imaging and VR Societies in Hollywood and is powered by Barco.